Hello and welcome to Elizabeth's Craft Room, and I'm going to show you how to make the vanity case first. So let's get started with that. Now you have got all the measurements, so those are already done, but I will just run through on the case. So the inner base, I've done it in white as well, so you can see what it is that we're doing here. So this is the inner base. So I'm going to lay it on top of the black piece. You can see probably a little bit easier with the score lines. So 12 inches by 10 1/4, scored at 2 3/4 inches from the edge all the way around. I'm going to just go and cut these. This is the last one that needs doing here on the white, so I'll just show you. We want this piece here to have a straight line down the side. That's because this is kind of the outer or the part of the base that we need this to be straight. We don't want any kind of veering off. But in order to make it fold nicely, if you take a little V out coming from the outside in, so the 4 flaps, just taper them a little bit so they will fall. So I'll go ahead and cut the black one. So there we go. You can see you don't need to be kind of exactly even with the tapers, it's just to make it fold nicely. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this. Just a little note, when you are making this, I would suggest that you do all of the base piece before you construct the lid. The reason is they're quite similar sizes and it just saves the stress. So let's just pop some Tombow multi-purpose adhesive on there. It's my favourite glue for boxes because it is very strong, and also it gives you some wiggle room when you first put it all together. So and so we can bring those up, and because we've cut those straight, we're going to get a nice edge on those pieces and a nice rectangular box. There you go. So that's our base. So the next pieces you need for this are the outer part of the base. So you need 2 of these at 11 3/4 by 2 1/2, and you're going to score at 2 1/2 on each end. So bring in my black ones now, which I have cut and pre-scored. Now the reason we're putting an outer on this is we want this box to shut down upon itself. So we get a nice closure there. So we need a little gap. If I try and hold it up there, we need a little gap here so that that slightly larger top fits perfectly onto the base. That's what we're aiming for. So in order to achieve that, we have some pieces that go on the outside just to make it slightly larger. The easiest way to do it is with the foam adhesive strips. You can use like a double layer of dimensionals, and I'm using, but I found the strip is just a bit easier to handle. So I'm going to go ahead and put the strips along. That's my other piece. I'm actually going to use dimensionals at the bottom, really just from a cost point of view. The putting the strips along is more expensive. And but you could put strips top and bottom. It doesn't really matter. Okay, the other thing I'm going to do is just where that goes round the corner, I'm just going to snip it, and it's as easy to do that as to measure the piece and then cut. So, and that one happens to fall perfectly on that fold anyway. So that's those, and then we'll go ahead and put regular dimensionals along the bottom. We'll pop them onto the outside of the box, and where we're going to match up is the bottom of the box, so along that line there, that needs to be lined up with this, and then you'll see you get a little drop piece. Can you see just there? You'll get a little drop, and that's where your lid is actually going to sit. Take it round the back and put the other one on. Just realised I didn't take the backing off that piece. It works a lot better with the backing off. Just pop that, take that out. There we go. That's pressed in better. And again, I'm going to line this up. So fold those round and I'll line this up at the bottom of the box like so. And if you've got any overlap, you can put a little glue down the side. I actually haven't on this one. I've got a little bit that side, but I think that's going to hold okay. And these pieces are actually a little bit off there because I was fiddling around with it. There we go. That's better. Press all those in. And the joins are actually going to be covered up by some of our designer paper, so you won't see very much of that join there anyway. Okay, final bit on the base before we put the hinge and the lid on, and that is this piece here, which is the divider. Now the divider is 10.5 by 5.5, and we're scoring at 2 and 3.5 in that direction, and 2 and 8.5, or 2 inches from each end in that direction. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut this and put it together. And this can go, you can actually position this wherever you like in the box. I'll just take some little chunks out here to make it sit nicely. You can position this wherever you like in the box, but I put mine in the middle. But it has two purposes. Firstly, it does actually divide it up, so if you're putting cards and envelopes and things inside, you've got sort of different sections. So I'm just going to put glue on my tabs and put this in. So the other thing the base does is to give the whole thing a little bit more structure. So once we've glued this in, it just gives it a little bit more strength. Let's just put them all together. So we've got a little box like so, and then what I did is just to put glue down the sides all the way along the bottom and just pop it in, and then press in from the outside of the box and just hold it for a moment till that glue sticks, and along the bottom as well. And it just gives the whole box that little extra bit of structure, which will give it a little bit more strength. Now I'm going to bring in the lid. So this is 11 and 7/8 multiplied by 8 and 1/8, scored all around at 2 and 5/8. So 2 and 5/8 from the edges, and we're going to cut it just like we did the first one. So straight up that line and then cutting in that line, straight up that line and cutting in along that line, and so on. And then finally I'm cutting in from the outside edges as well, just taking off those little corners, which again makes this nice and easy to fold. We're going to glue that together with Tombow. Now you could use tear and tape here if you prefer. I wouldn't recommend snail for this because I don't think it will be strong enough to hold that box together. If you're a fan of fast fuse, I'm guessing that would work too. But I do like that wiggle room that you get with the Tombow. So there's my box. Now this is the moment of truth, because what we hope is that that goes onto and sits on, yay, can you see, it just sits onto the other piece that we've done. So it just is going to sit where that gap is, like so. So let's just check which is our front. That's going to be the back, in fact. So the next piece we need to attach is the hinge plan. So now we're going to take a hinge. Now the hinge, I originally had this at 6 by 2 scored down the middle at 1, but actually when I was cutting for this I found we had lots and lots of leftover pieces at 1 7/8, and so just to save cutting into a new piece of cardstock, we don't need to do that. I'm going to reinforce that hinge to make sure that's going to bend easily. And onto my slightly damaged box, I am going to put some Tombow glue here. And I'm going to start off by lining just the half a piece up over there. And I'm just lining that up just a fraction above the so that the hinge is going to move freely on once we get that onto the box. And then the easiest thing to do then is to bring the base of the box in, so we make sure we have it in exactly the right position, and then put some glue down here, push it together and just hold it on. And just employ your patience gene here for a moment if you have one. You just need to let that really glue and stick. You don't want to start moving this around until it's done. So alternatively, tear and tape will do it instantly if you're more of an instant girl or boy. Okay, doing that, and there you go, and there's your box, and it's just going to sit. We've got the weight of the lid down there. It's actually just going to come down and sit on the edge and be a perfect fit. Right, the next thing to do is the pretty stuff, which is to decorate our box, and I've got some tips for you here. You can see, depending on the paper that you use, but if you use this one that I'm using, you want all of your pattern to go in the same direction. So I'm going to show you some cutting on how to do it, and I'm going to show you something else that you want to be careful with. You can see I'm quite free and easy with my Tombow, kind of scribbling onto things. If you scribble too hard onto the back of the foiled bit, and I don't know if you can you see I've got little nozzle lines from my Tombow, so do be very careful doing that, or indeed you could use snail if you prefer. Now let me show you my cheat sheet. Just make sure you can see all of this. So here is how I've cut this out. I need 4 pieces 6 inches by 2 inches. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. I need 1 piece 4.5 inches by 6 inches for the top. That's there. I need 4 pieces 4.5 by 2 inches. That's those there. And I want a little label, everyday label piece that I'm going to trim down, and that makes this fixing piece at the front. That decorates the fixing piece at the front. So that's what you need to go ahead and cut. And I'm going to go ahead now and decorate, and I'm going to start off by decorating the top, so I'll just open that up. Now this actually uses less than half a pack of this beautiful designer paper. It's really entirely up to you as to how much you include in your class, but I included a full pack so that people could make lots of goodies with them. But you could do a cheaper class and not include a full pack of the designer paper. And so I'm just going ahead and sticking these on with, oops, with a little bit of snail. Let's do our sides. And so all the joins and things kind of get mostly covered up now with the decoration. So your eye is not going to go to those. Let's just get that in the right position. And you can see that's starting to come together. So the next couple of pieces I'm going to show to you are the handle and the closure piece on the front. Now the closure, I've actually just left this loose. I've just left it as is and it just sits. You could put a magnet underneath there. I wouldn't suggest Velcro because I think it tends to pull away at the boxes if you use Velcro, but you could use a magnet if you wish. Now for that fastening, or faux fastening in my case, I've taken a piece here that is 4 inches by 1.5 inches. And the width is quite critical because that is the width of the everyday label punch, just under. So I'm just going to pull that through and I'm going to go right to the edge as far as I can and punch. And same again. So I'm going, I always have trouble doing this, do you as well? Pull that all the way through, there we go. And punch. And now we've got an extended version of that everyday label punch. Now I said earlier we were going to punch an extra one out of the spare pieces. And then what I'm going to do is trim that down. So I'm just going to take it from this little point here and this little point here and trim that down, and that makes a nice little decoration. And then to finish off, and actually to give this project some weight, I'm using, and again included in my class was half a pack of the faceted gems in gold, and I'm popping one of the large ones at the bottom and top, and again that weight is actually going to help the lid sit down and sit comfortably as we go. So I'm just going to put some Tombow just at the top there, and again you could measure, but I'm just, for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to eyeball that, put it in the middle, make sure it's straight, and stick that on. Right, okay, so that's that piece there, and that sits a lot more nicely now. It's actually just gives it a bit of weight, and it then sits nicely on the top. Now the handle is 6 inches by 1 inch, and I've scored each end at 5 and 1 inch. Now, sorry, scored each 1 inch from each end, so 1 inch and 5 inches. And again, using the everyday label, exactly the same technique. I'm going to bring that through, all the way through, but this time I'm actually lining it up. I'm looking at those 2 points and lining it up straight and chopping that off. Feed it through from the side all the way through, lining that up and chopping that off. And then to give us a nice curve, just use a bone folder, and that will just fold that piece there. Fold these up. And again, I'm going to use a bit of bling and go for the large faceted gems. You could use any size for these. It's definitely the large ones for the one going down the side, because that gives it, as I say, a little bit of strength, a little bit of weight. And then we're going to pop this on the top. And obviously you wouldn't necessarily pick it up with this unless you've got a magnet on the front, but it does give a nice little finish there. So there you go. So final thing is the corners, and you can see I have used the stitched framelits. Now if you don't have those, you could just use a circle punch. So I have used the second smallest stitched circle framelit, and I have cut 6 per person. Now you might think we've got 8 corners, you need 8, but actually you don't. For the bottom corners, you're just going to cut these in half, fold them, and to pop those on, a little bit of glue, and with the straight line that you've chopped across the middle, am I in camera here? That is going on that corner. Do that again in case that wasn't in camera. Okay, so you've chopped across the middle there. The straight line lines up with the bottom of the box. And there you go, and there's your little stitched, edged corners. Okay. Now for the top ones, you need something a little bit different. Those two are obviously going on the back. And so what I would suggest is that you fold these in half and then in half again. And then you're going to take your scissors and cut 1/4 out. Then on the top of the box, you're going to again put some Tombow glue all over the back, and you're going to put your corner on like so, and just hold that in place for a moment, and then that will give you a really nice little corner. Let's do that again. So I'm going to fold in half, and then matching up that fold, I'm going to fold in half again. I'm going to cut that corner out, glue all over, and we're just going to put that, glue that on like so. And that gives us a nice little stitched corner. So I'll go ahead and finish those.